Hey friends, welcome back to the Bible in a Year plan. I'm Lucas Liebforth. I am a follower of Christ, husband to Megan and dad to Mac. Well, we're in week 6 of our Bible in a Year. We're going to be walking through Exodus 16 through 31, Psalm 33, Psalm 90, Psalm 109, we skipped this last week, and Psalm 114. We're going to walk through Ephesians 4, 5, and 6, and we're going to end on a Phillipians 1 and 2. Again, this is a 50,000-foot view, and our goal is not necessarily to go super in-depth to each verse, but to more so give a summary in a sentence or two to each chapter or kind of section. So let's begin in Exodus 16 through 31. I kind of have these 3 main plot points. That's in Exodus 16, Exodus 20, and then the last is this chunk from Exodus 25 through 31. Well, Exodus 16 is this, that God provides manna and quail for the Israelites in the wilderness. He demonstrates his provision here and his faithfulness to provide as they left Egypt. Exodus 20 is the giving of the 10 commandments at Mount Sinai. It's establishing the moral and the ethical foundation for God's covenant with his people. And then Exodus 25 through 31 details the detailed instructions for the tabernacle, including the Ark of the Covenant, the altar, as well as the priestly garments. You know, in the wilderness, God not only sustains his people, but also reveals his holy standards through the giving of the law and the instructions for worship. Let's move on to the Psalms. Psalm 33 is just this. It's a song of praise for God's creative power and sovereignty over all of the earth. Psalm 90, I love Psalm 90. I'm actually going to be doing a separate podcast on Psalm 90 itself. This is a psalm of Moses, and it reflects on the brevity of life and the eternal nature of God, emphasizing the need for his wisdom and favor. And I love the beginning of Psalm 90 where it talks about God, you are our resting place. You are our refuge. You are our shelter. And man, God is our shelter. He is our refuge. He is our stronghold. He is our foundation. Psalm 109. It's a cry for justice against enemies, yet it's ultimately a plea for God's mercy and vindication. And lastly, Psalm 114. This celebrates God's power displayed in the Exodus, where nature itself responded to his presence. And through these Psalms, we are reminded of God's power in creation, his justice in the face of opposition, and his eternal nature that provides solace in life's fleeting moments. Let's move on to Ephesians 4, 5, and 6. We're currently in Ephesians 4 as a church, and we're finishing out the book of Ephesians hopefully before we hit Easter. Well, Ephesians 4, as we're walking through it, we're seeing that Paul is exhorting believers to walk in unity, to walk in maturity and love, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the bond of peace. Ephesians 5 is the instructions for holy living. It's including imitating God and walking in love and submitting to one another in Christ. And then Ephesians 6 is the spiritual battle that believers face and the call to put on the armor of God, to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. See, Ephesians calls believers to live in a manner worthy of their calling, walking in love, walking in purity, and walking in wisdom, and standing firm against spiritual opposition. The latter half of Ephesians is the application point, where the first half is kind of more this head knowledge. Now let's put this into practice, friends. Let's put this into practice. Well, let's finish with Philippians 1 and 2. Philippians 1. Paul's joy is in the advancement of the gospel. It's all throughout Philippians 1, even in the midst of imprisonment. He's encouraging believers here to live lives, again, worthy of Christ's gospel. The call to humility and unity is where we're kind of landing in Philippians 2. So it switches from this encouragement to believers to live lives worthy of Christ's gospel. And then it calls them to humility. He's calling us to humility and again to unity, much like we see in Ephesians 4, using Christ's example of selflessness and obedience as the ultimate model. Philippians exhorts believers to embrace joy amidst trials, to pursue humility and unity, and to live out the mind of Christ in all things. And I think it's just wild that Paul is telling believers to embrace joy amidst trials while he is in the midst of a trial. I mean, man, you're putting your words, your practice and your words together. You are literally living out what you are saying. And that just lends credibility to what Paul is exhorting us to do, to live out the gospel. Well, friends, that's it for this week. I hope that you join me next week in week 7 of our Bible in a Year plan. God bless.